every Tuesday and Thursday with us. Good morning, Tony.
Still 100% tattoo-free. Don't matter what you do.
All right, you're tattoo-free. You're also signal-free. You don't have any signal. We get you there now? Did you get a little better signal?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. We can't see your tattoo, but we can hear you better. All right.
No tattoos. No tattoos.
All right. So your article the other day was interesting. A little bit confusing with this forced arbitration in the state of Missouri. What's going on with this latest story you found?
Well, here's what's confusing. Attorney General Josh Hawley can't find his gumption. So the Attorney General signed a letter this last week, which was an appropriate letter to sign. Every Attorney General in the United States signed it. It is a letter to Congress saying it's time to stop forced arbitration for sexual harassment cases because sexual harassers in companies are being hidden from scrutiny. Some companies have forced arbitration contracts so that there is when a complaint is made, and it exists in Congress as well. If somebody is sexually harassed and they make a complaint, rather than going to court where there will be some transparency, as our forefathers intended, they end up with this arbitrator who keeps everything secret. And let's say he finds against the harasser, nobody knows that this person has been harassing somebody else because they keep it secret to protect the company. So that person stays in the company for a long time or moves somewhere else or whatever. So Josh Hawley did the right thing. He signed on to this letter. The problem is he signed on to this letter the same week that a Republican in the legislature has a bill supported by the Missouri Chamber of Commerce and Hallmark Cards, of all people, that would force arbitration, make it easier to force arbitration, including in sexual harassment cases in businesses in Missouri. The exact opposite of what Hawley's letter to Congress said. And so it sort of blew up the bill. All of a sudden, the bill was getting ready to pass the House, and various Republicans realized, wait a minute, we thought we were for forced arbitration. Now our Attorney General is against forced arbitration. What's the deal? And the problem for Hawley is Hawley has not come out strongly and said, I'm against this bill. Because apparently he's okay with forced arbitration for some sorts of discrimination, just not against sexual harassment, because right now that wouldn't look good in his campaign for U.S. Senate against Senator Claire McCaskill. So there's a whole lot of politics being played, and the bottom line is there is a bill in the Missouri legislature that will make it harder for workers to have one of their most important and oldest constitutional rights, the right to a trial by jury, guaranteed in the Sixth Amendment. And there are Republicans in the Missouri House and the Missouri Chamber of Commerce trying to take that right away from Missouri workers.
All right, so just so I understand this, Josh Hawley came out and is in favor of this Attorney General bill that would allow people who have suffered from sexual misconduct to have their day in court. But has he said anything about the bill and the forced arbitration in Missouri? Has he not said anything? Is he waiting to say something? I mean, he hasn't said anything about the bill here in the state?
He's wavering. He's been asked directly, and I am one of the people who asked his office for an opinion on the bill, and the only statement I got is he's had a conversation with the sponsor of the bill to suggest that it shouldn't apply to sexual harassment. And the bill in its current form still applies to sexual harassment. And as several attorneys that I spoke to, including a prominent one in the House, Jay Barnes, who is a Republican who is opposed to this bill, all made the point to me, you can't just fix one little problem. You can't say, okay, we're not going to force arbitration in sexual harassment cases, but if you claim that your boss is abusing you in some other way or you've been discriminated against, we'll allow the company to keep that secret. That completely violates the Constitution, and you can't do that, and that makes the bill problematic, period. And so Josh Hawley has not taken a clear position on the bill. He has merely issued a statement saying, well, it doesn't affect sexual harassment.
What's going on with Josh Hawley? He's stumbling out of the gate here.
He's trying to be somebody that he isn't. This is a guy who is a constitutional attorney who is liked by a lot of Republicans because he's young, because he's smart, because he's ambitious. But he's pulling some of the same sort of outsider stuff that got our governor Eric Greitens in trouble. If you try to run as an outsider, but then you fumble on a constitutional law situation, you need to have the gumption to be willing to stand up and say, look, this is just wrong. This is unconstitutional. It's wrong. But he's trying to appeal to the super far right of the Missouri Republican Party so that he can't lose a primary. And then in the general, he'll try to go back to being smart constitutional lawyer. You can't have it both ways, and that's what he's trying to do right now.
Tell you what, we had this Austin Peterson on the show the other day, a bit of an unknown, but, and I don't mean this in a negative way, he's a fast talker, he's a smart talker. Every misstep that Josh Hawley's making, this Austin Peterson is right there to bash him. So he's getting it from Claire McCaskill from the Democrats, but also within his own party. Seems like Austin Peterson's doing a good job of sticking this, establishment model on him and or moniker on him. It just seems like Josh Hawley, it does seem like he's not running on who he is. He's a smart, intelligent, Christian conservative, and he's trying to be somebody he's not.
Well, and let me be clear, I'm not sure we know who he is. I mean, this is a guy who came out of nowhere to be the Attorney General, and as I've reported, is occasionally struggling in doing the most important job that he has right now, which is running a massive law office of the Attorney General's office. We don't really know who he is, and now he's already running for his next office, and he's trying to be Mitch McConnell's guy and Steve Bannon's guy at the same time. And, I mean, ultimately, I just think you got to decide who you are.
Yeah.
And I don't think we know who he is yet. And on this bill, there's a clear opportunity to decide who he is, and he won't do it.
Tony Messenger, St. Louis Post-Dispatch columnist, every Tuesday and Thursday with us. Tony, thanks for checking in.